I wonder, have you ever sat looking at the letters and the words on a page? You see them, they're in English, you know what each means, and your eyes are going through the motion of reading what's there, but somehow your mind is somewhere else and you're taking nothing in. Or perhaps you've experienced arriving at your destination. You park the car only to realize you have no memory of your journey across town. Worryingly, you've been on automatic pilot the whole way. You can't even remember the route you've taken, let alone the numerous traffic lights you've needed to obey. Sometimes when traveling by car, we can go long distances on automatic pilot without being aware of much of our journey. With our thoughts elsewhere, it's almost as if we're in some sort of trance. And it's the same when we're traveling by train, when, lost in preoccupation, we simply don't notice the many stations at which we stop. And often, without even realizing it, we can be many miles away, in more ways than one. By being absent from so much of our life, we end up missing the vital reality of the individual moments that go to make up our short time on Earth. Sadly, all too many of them pass us by in a haze of distraction. But this need not be the case. The late Vietnamese monk and teacher Thich Nhat Hanh taught us that, and I quote, "With mindfulness, you establish yourself in the present in order to touch the wonders of life that are available in the moment." This really is the crux of it. The American professor and founder of the renowned stress reduction clinic at the University of Massachusetts Medical School in Boston, Jon Kabat-Zinn, tells us that mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. Because this is the definition of mindfulness that I most like to use. I'm going to say it once again. Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and crucially, non-judgmentally. I realize this concept may at first seem a little simplistic, but I invite you to hang in there. The ramifications are huge. As someone living with ADHD, being easily distracted for a long time felt like a problem that was peculiar to me. After all, by definition, those of us with ADHD are meant to have a deficit of attention. But, as it turns out, everyone regularly lapses into autopilot. Although arguably some of us perhaps a little more than others. Of course, experiencing distraction in the way that we do doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. On the contrary, our smart human brain is actually wired to roam free. And we developed the ability to function on autopilot for good reason. For one thing, it serves to prevent our mind from becoming overwhelmed by the complex cognitive processing constantly churning away in our head. Autopilot also serves to save us from being overwhelmed by the flood of sensory information bombarding our senses at any given time. The trouble is, despite its essential benefits, autopilot can prevent us experiencing huge chunks of our life to the full. You simply can't experience what you're not awake to, right? But there's more. Another notable downside is that when we're on autopilot, we're more likely to have our buttons pushed. This is because at these times we're only dimly aware of our thoughts, emotions, impulses, and body sensations, and often we are barely even conscious of what's happening around us. Of course, none of this is conducive to a considered and appropriate response on our part. So it follows that being mindless, to put it differently, can all too easily cause us to give way to the sort of unwanted thought patterns which seriously affect our performance, our mood, and our mental health. Autopilot also supports the bad habits we might engage in, even when we know better than to persist with them. I regularly see intelligent people mindlessly self-medicate their feelings of unease with a range of self-sabotaging behaviors. Often this unconscious reaction to difficult feelings is at the root of such things as overeating, drinking too much, reliance on narcotics of one kind or another, gambling, pornography, sex addiction, procrastination, and compulsive shopping. So one of our aims with applied mindfulness is to train our brain to be better focused and more aware. When we learn to notice what's happening in the present moment, preferably without judgment, we become more conscious of our thoughts, emotions, impulses, and bodily sensations. And it is this increased awareness that increases our freedom of choice. Mother Teresa said, "Be happy in the moment. That's enough. Each moment is all we need, not more." So we no longer need to continue in the same old mental ruts that will have caused us difficulty in the past. Instead, we develop an ability to pay attention to our experience of the moment. And rather than react on autopilot, as we are all inclined to do, we cultivate a skill of pausing for just a beat before responding in a way that is more considered, appropriate, and in line with our values. Alice Morse Earle, American historian and author, put it this way: "Yesterday's history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift." That's why we call it the present. Expect life to be different.